All right. So the topic is medical aerosols in critical care, new frontiers. So I have to acknowledge, I think a lot of this information was given to me as a material from Pneumocare as well, because the Fink, who has done a lot of work on aerosols, I think he had given an excellent talk in Bangalore some time ago, and he helped us with some of the literature in these slides. So the topics that I would cover is, I think the audience need to know what are all the different nebulizers that we use in ICU. So it's a very important topic. I found it extremely interesting learning about them. And I think this is extremely important. Position of nebulizer in the whole circuit. Does it make a difference? I think this is extremely important for all the trainees because there's a huge science to this as to where we position the nebulizer when we are nebulizing our patients. And there's obviously a new tool that is available called vibrating mesh nebulizer. Does it make a difference, or is it superior to the other conventional nebulizers people are using? And can this vibrating mesh nebulizer be used with high frequency nasal cannula? So obviously we use it with mechanically ventilated. Can we use it for high frequency nasal cannula? And can vibrating mesh nebulizer be used with non-invasive ventilation? And take home message. So these are the topics that I'll try to cover. So probably it will take around 20 minutes. So I think we use all sorts of ventilators and we use all sorts of circuits. We use HFNC, we use NIV, so we use different, and we use, some people would use oscillation as well. And even there I think they have used different nebulizers. So we'll just look one by one. So the first study, the most earliest study came from McIntyre group in 1985 to look at all the aerosolized nebulization, where do they deposit. So if you see this left side of the column, so all these studies that you'll see in the talk, the deposition is indicated by your radioisotopes, because that is the only way to see how your deposition is happening. So if you see this in intubated patients, they found if you nebulize, this was in way back in 1985, obviously things have improved. So the main deposition was more in the trachea and extremely less in the lungs. Okay. So, but if you look at the lung parenchyma, what they found surprisingly was intubated patients had more and non-intubated patients had less. So it is vice versa. So you would think intubated patients will have more in the lungs, but here it was opposite. So they had more in the trachea and less in the lungs. So this was in the way back study. Then things have evolved. So this was the study which came from Canadian group comparing meter dose inhaler and jet nebulization. So as you see, the meter dose inhaler is the white ones. The lung deposition was much better with meter dose inhaler as compared to the jet nebulization or Venturi nebulization. As you see, the deposition is way less. This was a Canadian study by Fuller et al., which came in 1990 after a McIntyre study. So showing that okay, meter dose inhaler may be superior. And then came this vibrating mesh technology. So basically it has a mesh, as you see, with multiple orifices. Basically it increases the whole surface area so that your aerosolization is lot more denser and lot more effective. So this is currently available and we will look into the studies whether this really outscores your jet nebulization or your meter dose inhaler or ultrasonic nebulizer. So what do we have in the market now? So I'm sure many of you present here would be sort of tend to use more of jet nebulizer. This is how it looks. And then we have this vibrating mesh nebulizer. Then you have this ultrasonic nebulizer, which you typically tend to use it for all your non-intubated patients. Then you have this meter dose inhaler, which you can use in ventilatory circuit as well. And then we'll look into these studies. So the first study came from this R.I. et al., which came in respiratory care in 2010. So he did a study. So this is a test lung. So you would consider this as a patient. So he created 3 positions in the circuit. So the position 1 is where generally most of you would still be using it. It is between the ET tube and the Y connector. And position 2, he put it 6 inches from the Y connector. So I think this science is very important for all the trainees to understand. And the third position, he put it 6 inch from the ventilator, and saw how the aerosolization or the deposition happened when these 3 were put together like this. And if you look at the results, so you have a jet nebulizer, you have vibrating mesh nebulizer, you have ultrasonic and meter dose inhaler. As you see, the maximum deposition when you remove the heated nebula, because obviously when you are nebulizing, our expectation is you remove the HME or heated humidification. So when there is heated humidification is removed, the maximum deposition was seen from the position 2, which was 6 inches from the Y connector. And if you are using jet nebulization, you can see all these are in percentages. Just for your understanding, only 30.24 percentage was deposited in this. But if you see the jet nebulization, it's all in single digit. So after the end of my talk, your whole numbers will figure between 15% to maximum 25%. That's all we are looking at deposition in the lungs. And if you are using jet, pretty much it is all in single digits. And the jet nebulization performed well if you kept close to the ventilator. If you kept 6 inches from ventilator, then it attained double digit, and more so when you remove the HME. I mean, that we would expect. We would remove HME or heated nebulization. So what this study highlighted is the farther the distance it was from the whole from the white or the ET tube, better was the deposition. And with vibrating mesh, it was shown to be superior when it was at 6 inch, at least from this study. With jet nebulization, it closer to the ventilator, better was the deposition. So the conclusions Ari made was that vibrating mesh nebulizers perform best in position 2, which is 6 inches from the Y connector, and jet nebulizer performs best in position 3, which is 6 inches from the ventilator. And both of them had twofold more aerosol delivery than position 1. So I'm sure many of you would still be using position 1. So I think it's about time we move away from that ET tube for better aerosol deposition. That's what all studies are showing. So then Ari again did another study. So here again he placed one at 6 inches from the white tube, and position 2 was 6 inches from the ventilator, and he did comparison in adult and pediatric, and he took other elements into the study. So he looked at the bias flow. So I'm sure bias flow, all the ventilators would have bias flow, which is a continuous flow of gases. And so our understanding is you keep a higher bias flow, because bias flow in most ventilators will be default settings. So if you have a higher bias flow, then your deposition is less, because you have this constant flow which keeps eliminating these aerosols from the circuit, and obviously your deposition will be more compromised. So here he compared the deposition between 2 liters of bias flow and 5 liters per minute of bias flow, and see the difference. So this was again done by Ari et al. And this was the results. As you see, position 2, now you remember position 2, it is close to the ventilator. So that had the light green color is the vibrating mesh nebulizer, that had the highest deposition. The dark blue is the jet nebulization. And you see this particular one was the bias flow 5. Bias flow means 5 liters. So the higher the bias flow, lesser is the deposition. And this was with 2 liters. With lesser bias flow, the deposition was better. And as you see, there is a lot of difference between the jet nebulizer and vibrating mesh with regards to the deposition and the position. So this was in position 1, which is 6 inches from the white piece, and this was the position which is close to the ventilator. And these two remained very similar in both adult population and pediatric population. And when they compared with vibrating mesh nebulizer, there was 2.4 fold increase in the deposition, and that was statistically significant in this study as well. So this was the US study. These two studies are from US, Ari et al. Then there was another study, so that was in 2010. So 2013, this was another US study called Berlinski study. They looked at 4 positions. So Ari looked at 3 positions in first study, then the 2 positions and the bias flow. Then this Berlinski looked at 4 positions. So he kept one at the ventilator, one after the humidifier. So we expect that this was a heated humidifier. And C, 6 inches from the white piece. And the first position was again between the ET tube and the Y connector. So this is a small font, but in essence what you see is, as you see, the highest deposition of the aerosols was when it was kept at the ventilator or at the humidifier. So what you are hearing time and again is, the farther away it is from the ET tube, better was the aerosol deposition into the lungs. And this is constantly seen in these studies. And as you see, this is the percentage. And if you look at the jet nebulizers and other nebulizers, the deposition is all in single digits. Just focus on the single digits. The double digits come only with vibrating mesh nebulizer. And here in this study, they found vibrating mesh nebulizer had 5 to 6 times superior to others, and it outperformed at all locations. So our understanding is, the farther away we should go for better, obviously, deposition. and vibrating mesh by technology or by its superiority has a better ability to deliver aerosols to the lung. So this is what we see from these small studies, and this was done on this poor monkey which was obviously intubated, and they have looked at comparing again between the Misty neb. I think it is also a way of type of jet nebulization, and compared with vibrating mesh. And as you see with vibrating mesh, there was deposition. This is again a radionuclide imaging of the lungs. There was 12.6% deposit. This is the lung. So this is the trachea. As you see, when you gave the Misty neb, it was sitting only in trachea. It did not reach the lung. Here there is some element that has reached the lung, and that was 12.6%. With Misty nebs it was 0.5%. This was a French study which was done in a monkey, and as you see that was statistically significant. So again, here they showed there was a 25-fold greater lung deposition with vibrating mesh compared to jet nebulizer during infant ventilation. So this was an animals model from the French group. So that's about in a mechanically ventilated. So those are the studies which emphasize how the type of nebulizer may make a difference, and position. I think for me the science of position is important because that is something we should adopt whichever we are using. Then how about, I'm sure many of you would have started using high flow nasal cannula. Can this vibrating mesh science work in HFNC? So here again this was a study from US which came in 2008, and they showed even with high frequency nasal cannula the lung deposition was up to 25%. So as I said, your figure in the mind is only from 15 to 25. You cannot exceed more than that with regards to lung deposition. And if you look with other models, I think it is much lesser. So with HFNC also the lung delivery, if you remember that first slide I showed you by McIntyre, he showed even in spontaneously breathing, he found there was a better deposition in the lungs as opposed to mechanically ventilated, and that seems to apply at least in high flow nasal cannula where deposition is reaching 25% compared to the ventilated where you are seeing around that range. So even with HFNC the deposition is better. So then they did this study, the same group did this study where HFNC they connected to a mask with a filter, and this as you see there is a filter here. So the reason for having that filter is to not allow the aerosols to escape. So basically uninhaled aerosol sits in that mask and they get recirculated, and the exhaled aerosols also will sit there just to see if that improves the effectiveness. And they did a lung scintigraphy, and this is the lung scintigraphy they did with some with the Curie units, and they found there was a reasonably good lung deposition when you are nebulizing with HFNC. If you use that filter, so it will basically prevent the escape of these aerosols, and you have a better aerosol deposition because of non-losing of all these aerosols into the atmosphere. So I think that was something they showed, and they did show this in a pictorial way where all the aerosols sit when you nebulize through nasal cannula or high frequency nasal cannula. So what they found is not much remains in the nebulizer, because once it goes out of nebulizer you don't see much deposits of aerosols in the nebulizer. And they saw reasonable distribution of aerosols in the circuit and in the nasal prongs, and predominantly the aerosols were sitting in that mask and expiratory filter, because that is where the whole trap of aerosols is, and patients would continue to rebreathe from those trapped aerosols. So basically they said having a filter attached when you are nebulizing through high frequency nasal cannula would help you achieve better sort of a lung deposition. And they looked at high frequency nasal cannula at 10 liters. This is 1 millicurie. This is the radioisotope they used, and they found that lung deposition was reasonably good with HFNC. So again it goes on to show that vibrating mesh nebulizer could be effectively used with HFNC for good lung deposition. And if you see the sort of a figure I have been telling, the lung deposition was up to 15.4% in essence, even with HFNC. So, and they found that stomach deposition was very less, and the distribution through lung also was reasonably homogeneous when they did this. Okay. So that is about HFNC. How about ventilators? So is HFNC is a vibrating mesh nebulizer effective in non-invasive ventilation? So this was a study, interestingly, which has come from Thailand group. I think they did in association with US group. So this is a setup of NIV, so where you have a ventilator and this you consider as a lung. And you see in NIV you have two ways, isn't it? You have one circuit limb with an expiratory port, or you have a two-way limb. So if you have a one-way limb, so this study was done with a one-way limb where there is an expiratory port, and they put the vibrating mesh nebulizer at position 1, which is prior to the expiratory, and they put one after the expiratory port. So obviously your common sense would tell you that the deposition would be much better in position 1, because there is no loss from the expiratory port. Because if you are giving it here, then there will be a lot of aerosol loss from the expiratory limb. So that's what they wanted to show. Because in mechanically ventilated intubated, we saw that it has to be farther away from the ET tube. But in NIV, it had to be closer to the NIV mask to prevent losses from the expiratory limb. So the drug delivery in NIV was influenced by nebulizer position, breathing frequency, and IPAP and EPAP settings. And this is what they showed. So in NIV, when the vibrating mesh nebulizer was closer to the filter, they found there was a better deposition. As you see, micrograms, there was much better deposition. And at the nebulizer, there was less, which means from once it goes out of the nebulizer, there was very less deposition. But once it goes farther, once it is beyond the expiratory port, you see the deposition significantly dropped, and there was more deposition sitting at the nebulizer. So in NIV, I think the science is little different. It has to be little closer to the mask for better, because once it is in the expiratory port, I think there is more leakage or loss of this nebulizer. And this was another study which was done to compare between the jet nebulizer, vibrating mesh nebulizer, metered dose inhaler in NIV. So these were all the different positions there. So this is a vibrating mesh. So this is a jet nebulizer, this is a metered dose, and you can see the inhaled mass percentage. As I said, the percentages are very similar. It toggles between 15 to 20. So if you look at vibrating mesh, I think the deposition was 28.83%. With metered dose, it was 23. So in comparison with metered dose, it sort of compared well, because metered dose also performed reasonably well, but jet nebulizers again performed very poorly even with non-invasive ventilation. So as you see through and through, I think vibrating mesh nebulizer by principle has a better ability to deposit aerosols in the lungs when compared to the jet nebulizers, which conventionally many of us still continue to use. And positioning. So we need to have clarity. If you are using in mechanically ventilated, it needs to be close to the ventilator. If you are using NIV, maybe it has to be closer. As you see, it is all closer to the mask to prevent the expiratory losses. In high frequency nasal cannula, I think positions was very close, because they used that mask and they gave it through that. So I think this was the science that we could see from all the studies. And even in NIV, they found vibrating mesh nebulizer had more than twofold more deposition than jet nebulizer. But vibrating mesh nebulizer and metered dose inhaler had similar dose efficiency. So this is what authors concluded from this NIV study. And this was another study which again I think came from the French group. They looked at again the radioscintigraphic appearance of the lung deposition. So this one, the left one was the jet nebulization lung. This was the vibrating mesh nebulizing lung. And as you see, even in vibrating mesh, the total lung deposition was 27.3% as compared to 7.3% with the jet nebulizer. So your ballpark figure with vibrating mesh sort of, your summarily you can think it will go to double digit, around 15 to 20%. With jet nebulization, you struggle to reach double digit deposition. I think that if that much, if you remember at the end of the talk, I think that is a reasonable sort of a conclusions. What about all the medications that people have been using in nebulizer? So I am not saying that these are all, the science is still evolving. Bronchodilators, obviously there is no debate, that is the only way we continue to give. Anti-infectives, I think this was the debate I was telling, we had recently. Science is evolving. There is no concrete evidence at this point of time saying that this is fully approved, because this is not fully approved to be used as a aerosol therapy, but science is evolving. So there are two very good review articles which has come very recently. I think we should all review that and look into the studies. Prostanoids, prostacyclins, they have used inhalation. Anticoagulants, this was very interesting. Heparin they have used as a nebulized. Even diuretics they have used as nebulized. Insulin they have used as nebulization. And they have used perfluorochloroquine. So as I said, none of them except bronchodilators, all the other agents you are seeing are in evolution. And I don't think we can vouch and say start using all of these as aerosols. Anti-infectives, obviously there is a new move towards using them, but we have to sit and review the whole body of evidence. As I time and again quoting. There are 2 good review articles which we should all review and take some stand. So this was just one sort of a picture which just showing diagrammatically as to why people are trying to vouch for anti-infectives is basically dramatic lung deposition vis-a-vis comparing the IV and administration. So they have done this with amikacin, and they found with IV administration your lung deposition, the green one was pretty less. Obviously your blood deposition was very good, but with your aerosolized sort of antibiotic, the deposition within the lung was found to be at a much higher level when they looked at the scintigraphically as well. So whether that will translate to clinical outcome, I think that is a debate we have. So again here with amikacin, they have compared with jet and mesh. So obviously if you use with jet, it still sits with single digit, 7 and 6.5. But if you are using vibrating mesh nebulizer, obviously it goes to double digit. 30, it was 30 up to 30%, which is very good. And there is a new thing called, I think, which is hidden is which is a pulmonary mediated nebulizer. So there's a new device that is also coming in for which is little superior, mainly for antibiotic, where you can aerosolize them as a continuous infusion. Okay, so that is also something which is evolving. So we need to see how that will come through. So what about your amikacin or anti-infective deposition when you use it as in a non-intubated? So they have used this by using an adapter with a valved mouthpiece, and they found even in a spontaneously breathing, when you use this mouth adapter, they found the lung deposition was 16 to 21%. And as you see, the deposition in other areas was reasonably less, and most of it sits in the reservoir. So even in a spontaneously breathing, they have done this aerosolized amikacin and seen the deposition reaches sort of a double digit. Okay. So the conclusions of this sort of a science of aerosol is, over the last decade, I think our concepts of aerosol delivery has changed. I think we need to be adapt to what are the new things that have evolved. So what we have understood is there is new technology, vibrating mesh nebulizer, time and again shows that it has a better ability to deposit the aerosols in the lungs, and most importantly the position. And if you see, the neonates, infants, children, adults can all get. So before, the science was whatever we nebulize, less than 10% only we are able to deposit in the lungs. Now our science is evolving where we may be able to reach more than 10% of lung dose with conventional ventilation. As you see, time and again with jet nebulizer, our ability falls less than 10%. And most important is, there is development underway to approve aerosols for acute and critical care. So when I say approve, as I said, all these other agents you saw, heparin, prostanoids we have used aerosols in overseas, in Australia I have used that. And heparin, insulin, I think these are still not approved, and even anti-infectives to a large degree are not approved. So science is evolving in that direction. And I think this is most important statement, the choice of aerosol generator, which we have deliberated upon, and placement. I think that position, I think it is a good revelation for all of us that position is something very important. So when I was preparing for this talk, I just went to my own ICU, looked into all the ventilators. I think we need to have more adapters, and the circuits have to be redesigned, because the cheaper circuits, what we tend to use, have no ability to place these placements, and we tried putting it close to the ventilator. I think it is little logistically, it is little tricky. So we need to have more of these connectors, which should help us keeping it close to the ventilator. So anyway, we'll discuss about that. And vibrating mesh nebulizer appears superior to jet nebulization and ultrasonic, at least from all the studies that we have reviewed. So that would be my concluding remarks. So I would end this with this quote. So lead your life like a dictionary, providing meaning to everyone who refers you. So all these deliberations are to achieve this. And visit my website. If you want to rehear this lecture, you can visit this website and go through it again to gain clarity and new insights. So thank you very much, and I'll